We get to work with retirees all over the country and in many states. And sometimes we see newly retired people move to brand new states, new locations after they're done working. And then a few years later, they realize that something's not right, that it's not ideal or it's not what they thought. And they end up moving again to a different state that's a better fit. And sometimes we have these brainstorm meetings with soon-to-be retirees about where they're gonna live or what they're gonna do after retirement or after they end work. And when you think about the factors at play when making a good decision on where to live, a common one that comes to mind is taxes and cost of living. But there's really 5 other factors to think about to make sure that you're making the right decision. So I'm gonna share all of them with you in this video so that you have a better chance of making the right decision and making it just one time. Before I get into it, if you've been thinking about your retirement more now, consider subscribing because we take the tactics and the strategies and the principles that have worked over the last 24 years of our retirement planning firm, that's Streamline Financial, and then we share them with you and people who subscribe. And by the way, I'm Dave Zoller and I'm one of the owners of that retirement planning firm. So as we get into these important factors when evaluating the best places to live, I want to share something that you may have heard before. I've mentioned it before on this channel and some other videos. And when we see clients or friends who have not moved and bought a house, but instead rented first in this potential new area, new location, they've rarely regretted it. It's just something that I've noticed. Sometimes people have moved to a new state and then we see that they move again a year or 2 later. It's a little bit easier when you're renting. There's a little bit less of a commitment versus buying and then having to sell and buy and get the real estate agent and all the things that come into play. So it's just an observation I've made, just something to think through as you're looking at your future. So let's run through that list. This is a list. There were 1,500 people that were polled over the age of 55, and it was a study, and these are the findings. These are the top 7 things, including the 2 we already mentioned, on what's most important as they're thinking about moving and where they're moving to. The number 1 most important thing is one that you'd guess, and it's really overall quality of life, which makes sense. Those things that are included in the quality of life are, some of the top ones were outdoor activities, being outdoors. Another one was cultural activities. There's actually things to do or maybe a town or city nearby. And then another one was spiritual community or something related to their faith. Then after quality of life is the one you'd expect also, which is cost of living and affordability. And I'm actually going to put taxes in here as well. Taxes came down a little bit later, but all of it has to do with how much of the retirement savings are we going to be spending in this new place. Because if you're in a high cost state like New York or California, or I think that Illinois is, at least near Chicago, is a high cost area, people who retire may find that their dollars can stretch a little bit further out when they look at the cost of living in other states, maybe lower cost states like Florida or Texas or Tennessee. The next on the list is safety, just making sure it's a safe area. And then the one after that is healthcare access and then healthcare quality. Because as we get into 60s and 70s and 80s, then we kind of know that doctor check-ins and appointments and different types of doctors becomes more frequent. Now on the list, officially, the next one would be taxes. I kind of included that in cost. The next one is weather. A lot of people, as you know, they move to warmer climates where they can't put up with the winter anymore if you're in the north. And then the next one is, I was actually surprised this was this far down the list, that's family proximity. And the reason why I'm a little bit surprised on this is because there's quite a few families that they end up waiting to see where and when their grandkids are going to be born. We've noticed that a little bit. But we also see if you're living in a different area than your family, or you've got multiple kids in different places, we just see more frequent travel, right? The travel expense increases when they get into retirement. Maybe it's not for going to different countries and things like that. Maybe it's just seeing those kiddos, those grandkids every or more frequently. So as you're thinking about things in this next stage of life, don't just focus on the cost or the taxes as you're thinking about where to go. Don't forget to evaluate those other things we looked at. Consider that idea of renting to scope out the area and just make sure it's the 100% right place for you. And if this video was helpful, let me know by giving it a like, clicking on the like button, or subscribing, and then I'll see you in the next video. Take care.